Adesso non per fare quello che si più.
Olè! Olè!
Raga, pegale!
Che passa?
Olè!
Papa loves mambo. Mama loves mambo.
You ever notice how football used to feel magical, and now it feels like just another thing on TV? What nobody really points out is this: the game didn't lose its magic first, we just grew up. Today, I want to talk about why football felt completely different when we were kids. I want to avoid the "life was simple" or "we had more time," and talk about the deeper reasons, the ones buried underneath the memories, the excitement, and the way the world looked back then. The real reason is football felt bigger. When I was young, football wasn't just a sport, it was what my whole week revolved around. Saturday wasn't Saturday unless there was a match. If there was no match on Saturday, it would ruin the whole of next week. I remember staying up late hoping my team would sign a new striker, refreshing news pages like it meant everything in the world. This was way before Fabrizio Romano took over the internet and transfer news. I would sprint outside after games to copy a goal you just saw, even if the ball bounced off every fence in the neighborhood. One of my favorite goals was when James Rodriguez scored that volley for Colombia. That goal still lives in my head years after.
Not by Alvaro Pereira, hit by James! Oh, what a goal! One of the greats!
And how could I forget the Nike ads? The whole Joga Bonito era. Those clips felt like pure magic. Ronaldinho hitting the crossbar and players in cages. Those adverts made football feel like a lifestyle. Not just a game. Everything around football felt huge because I was young. When you're a kid, the things you care about naturally feel larger than life. But that's only the surface layer. What really made football feel magical goes way deeper. Football didn't just entertain us, it shaped us. When I think back, football wasn't just my first passion. It was my first love, my first reason to sprint out of bed, my first taste of excitement that made my heart race long before adulthood ever did. It taught me how to feel things deeply, how to love something, how to be heartbroken in a way only a kid can be heartbroken. I'd cry when my team lost. I'd run around the living room like a lunatic when they won. Football was the first emotional roller coaster I was ever a part of. And that's the thing. Kids don't just watch football. Kids live football. Everything was new to us. The first big stadium I ever visited was Stamford Bridge, when I was in the UK on holiday. I didn't expect much, but walking out and seeing the pitch was something else. Everything just felt bigger. And that day, Drogba scored a header. The whole place went up. That was the first time I understood why people talk about stadium atmosphere like it's its own thing. The first star player I fell in love with might as well have been a superhero. Back then, these players weren't pixels or social media personalities. They were icons, untouchable, larger than life. As kids, we absorbed things differently. That's why certain matches are still clear in your mind, even though day-to-day stuff fades instantly. And then, football changed. Or maybe we changed first. See, as adults, we don't watch football the same way. We watch with stress, with distractions, with our phones in our hands, with deadlines in our heads. The difference is, kids watch football with heart. Adults watch football with life happening in the background. Football became about money, endless statistics, boring passing patterns. It shifted from emotion to numbers, and you can feel the difference nowadays in football. But here's what it really comes down to. Football didn't lose its magic. We just, for whatever reason, stopped playing and paying as much attention to football. Back then, watching football wasn't separate from your life. It fed your life. You'd watch a skill, run outside, and try it. Watch a finish, then practice it on a dusty pitch until your legs burned. You didn't just consume football, you lived it. But somewhere between growing up and growing busy, we stopped playing. We stopped pretending to be our heroes. We stopped those late evening kickabouts that made time disappear. You can't connect with the game the same way when it is not a big part of your life. So the real question is, can football ever feel magical again? Let's break this down properly. There are a few big reasons the magic faded, and each one reveals something about childhood itself. First, football used to be a social thing rather than digital. Let me explain. You watched games with friends or family. You argued about players in school. You recreated goals together. You laughed, debated, shouted, celebrated. Now, you watch matches alone. Everyone argues online instead of in person. Nobody cares about your team because everyone's too drained by their own life. Moments hit differently when you share them with people. Watching football with others always felt bigger than watching it alone. The reactions, the arguments, the noise, it all added to the memory. Second, the stakes felt higher as kids. You didn't have rent, bills, deadlines, stress, or responsibilities weighing you down. Football filled that space. It was your whole world for 90 minutes. Now, it's just a small part of a much heavier life. Third, the players felt more human. Back then, players were mysterious. You knew them from the pitch, not from every podcast, interview, posts, etc. Now we see so much of them online that some of that mystery naturally disappears. Last and not least, nostalgia is more powerful than we think. Our brains store childhood passion like treasure. Even if football wasn't better, our memory makes it feel better because we felt everything more intensely. Here's the honest part. Football wasn't magical because the sport was different. It was because we were different, younger, more impressionable, and fully invested. That's why it felt bigger. It was the way you watched it, the way you lived it, the way you cared without holding back. So if you want that spark again, don't chase the past. Rebuild the parts of yourself that made football feel that way. And it starts simple. Play again. Not a serious match, just a kickabout. With friends, with music, with no pressure and no expectations. The moment you start living football, even a little, watching football comes alive again. Because football didn't lose its magic. Adulthood just hides it. But the moment you bring back even a small piece of the kid you used to be, the spark returns. Because nostalgia isn't about going backwards, it's just recognizing an older version of yourself you haven't thought about in a while. That's it for today. I'll see you at the next checkpoint.